Welcome into the inaugural edition of Chasing the Ring, presented by Lammons Fine Jewelry. I'm Neal McCready. I'm the one that has less hair than the featured guest here, Carson McCready, part of the big show. We're going to talk all things NBA. We'll do this once a week. We'll start today, and the plan is to go through the NBA Finals, and then maybe we'll do some draft stuff. We'll see kind of what it's like. We haven't really decided on a day. Leaning towards Thursday, because Thursday's a big night in the NBA. A couple of games tonight, for example, Carson, we'll talk about in a minute. But before we get started, welcome into the studio. Good to have you.
Thank you.
You pretty excited?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk NBA, all topics. The stream's open. If you guys want to ask questions in the stream, we can do that. We might take some calls at some point. We're going to get some guests. I've got some NBA guests that we're going to get on over the course of time. It's 5:34 right now. We'll go about a half an hour, and then Chase Parham and I will have Hand Raise Guys brought to you by Rafters Music and Food. Around 7 Central Time tonight, we'll take your calls on that. We'll talk about some of the latest stuff with Ole Miss football. Ole Miss basketball gets a win last night. Speaking of basketball, the Rebels get a win over Auburn at home. So we'll talk about that. Ole Miss and South Carolina on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. Ole Miss looking to go 2-1 in the league. Carolina got a big win last night over Texas A&M. But this show is going to be pretty much all NBA. I want to tell you first, before we even get started, we're brought to you by the great people at Lammons Fine Jewelry right there in Oxford. They've got a great collection in their bridal collection, their pearl collection, fashion jewelry, men's watches, women's watches. It's a great selection. You can do what we did at Christmas for our girls. You can take jewelry in, have it cleaned, have it refurbished. We basically took old charms off of my wife's grandmother's charm bracelet, turned them into necklaces for Carson's sisters. They look great. The people at Lammons just do fantastic work. You can check them out at lammonsfinejewelry.com. That's Lammons, finejewelry.com. Or you can call them at 662-237-2777. They've been in Oxford more than 73 years of tradition of fine jewelry and excellence here in Oxford. All right, Carson, we'll start with this. Break the ice a little bit. Everybody's played 8 games-ish. So it's 8 games into a 72-game season, so everybody's played 1/9 of their season, about 11%. So we got a little bit of a cheat code here, but not much. Give me your early thoughts on who you think are the favorites. Who are the teams to beat right now? Who are the teams that if you had to predict today? We'll start in the East. If you had to predict today, who represents the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals?
I still think the Nets. They look really strong. Durant, Irving, they look good scoring-wise.
When they've both been out there together, it looks like it works, and they've got this deep bench. There's a lot there. There's a lot of pieces. You don't know whether, KD's Achilles is going to hold up over the course of time, but, man, he has looked good. He's out right now because of some COVID stuff. He doesn't have it, but he got social distancing traced or whatnot. Contact traced, I guess is the word. But you're right. They've looked the part.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'll tell you who I like. And I know right now Philly's the hot team, and they're 7-1. I wonder whether Philadelphia has enough scoring. They're great on defense. They've jumped from, I think, 15th 2 years ago in defense to 8th to right now they're the best team in the league defensively. But I still really like Boston. When you watch Boston play, to me, they look like a contender. I love Tatum. I actually thought, we'll talk about Gordon Hayward a little later in the show, I actually thought losing Gordon Hayward would hurt them. It hasn't. Tatum, to me, is emerging as the kind of guy, and we'll talk MVPs and stuff in a minute. He's emerging as the kind of guy that could be an MVP candidate year after year. Any thoughts?
No, I agree, honestly.
Okay.
I think they're up there as a contender, but I still go with the Nets.
Couple of teams that are interesting in the East. Hey, first of all, thanks to Rob Ray. It's very nice of you He says, best NBA show out there, calling it now. We're getting started. Kyle Wilson says, welcome, Carson. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. Orlando 6-2. It's early. But, if you go back and remember, they had a little moment in the bubble last year where they played pretty well. And people just sort of dismissed it because it's bubble and nobody knew what the bubble was. But they played really good basketball, and they made some noise, and they've got a nice team. They're sitting here at 6-2. Indiana's 6-2. I mentioned the Celtics. They're 6-3. The Knicks off to a nice start. Milwaukee's 5-3. We'll talk about them in a minute. And there's just a bunch of teams that are kind of out there. Atlanta's 4-4. The Bulls 4-5 under Billy Donovan. Miami's 3-4. We'll talk about Charlotte in a little while. They're 3-5. Here's one. We'll do some who's hot and who's not, but we'll touch on this because just a year ago they were very much a title contender. 2 years ago they won the title. Toronto 1-6, and they do not look the part at all. They're missing Serge Ibaka. They miss Marc Gasol. Kyle Lowry looks like he's beginning to lose a step in a league full of great point guards.
He's getting really old, isn't he? He's, 34, 35?
Well, and in this league with so many dominant point guards, you can lose that step quick and you fall off the map a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happened to them. All right, so we talk about – let's talk about the Pacers. Dustin Bridges says thoughts on the Pacers. I mean, they're off to a 6-2 start, 4-2 in the conference. They've won their last couple of games.
Sabonis has had a pretty good year so far.
No, Sabonis has had an all-star caliber year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pulling up his stats right now. Domantas Sabonis is getting 20.8 points per game, Carson, 11.4 boards, 6.4 assists. He's just 24 years old. He's kind of filled out. He's what's interesting about those European guys. They come over early, and we have a tendency to write them off if they don't just immediately bloom. He had some signs early with the Thunder in that first year, and then he went over in the Paul George trade with Victor Oladipo. And for all the credit Sam Presti in Oklahoma City gets, that's one that sometimes George turned into a whole bunch of picks, so it makes sense. But sometimes you wonder what it would look like if they still had Sabonis on that team. But they're getting a lot out of Miles Turner's on that bench. They've got Victor Oladipo is what I was looking for. I mean,
T.J. Warren's still there too, right?
Yeah, T.J. Warren's there. I'm pulling up his stats right now. He's 15.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. Giving them a lot. I'm looking at Oladipo coming back from the injury. He's getting 20.4 and 6 rebounds a game, 4.3 assists. It's a team that makes a lot of sense is what it does. They're a team that you wonder whether they get, do they get involved at the trade deadline? Do they do something to go for it on that team? Justin Holiday's getting 10.5 points off the bench for them. There's a lot there with them. All right, let's shift to the West, where I think the conversation, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think the conversation has to start with the Lakers.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. I still think they're going to be the finals contender. If anything, they win it. That team looks stronger than they were last year. They were a great team last year. What do
you think makes them look stronger?
I mean, the additions of – they did lose Dwight, but I thought picking up Montrez and Gasol, those are two – I thought were two pretty good pickups. But one player I would say was like the biggest loss was Rondo. See, he had a good year last year.
See, this is where you and I disagree. Rondo's fine. Rondo's getting old. I thought they made a great trade with the Thunder. Dennis Schroeder for them, it got overlooked for two reasons last season. One was Chris Paul was having a magnificent MVP caliber season in Oklahoma City, and two, it's Oklahoma City. But Dennis Schroeder should have won the Sixth Man of the Year. And frankly, he had moments where he was playing all-star caliber basketball. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he should have been an all-star. but he played some all-star caliber basketball for the Thunder. There were times that Oklahoma City, when they played that lineup with Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder and Danilo Gallinari and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Steven Adams, there were times when that was one of the best lineups in basketball, and a big part of that was Dennis Schroeder, and he's gone over to L.A., where he's not asked to be a star, obviously. You have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis, you have Kyle Kuzma.
Got a lot there, yeah.
Yeah, Montrezl Harrell. You got a lot there, but he's getting 15.8 points, 5 rebounds a game.
Right. No, and I still agree with the fact that he's one of the biggest additions they've had this season, if not the biggest, but those are just the two that came straight off of my mind.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma's getting 10.9 points per game. You're not asking a whole lot of him. They kept Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They kept Alex Caruso, and then, of course, we're skipping the big part. They have – we'll shift into this. We'll talk about some other West teams in a second. When you talk MVP candidates, I kind of wonder if this is the year that Anthony Davis gets an MVP. He's 22.3, 9 rebounds, 3.6 assists, takes so much of the load off of LeBron James, who's now, 36, 37 years old. LeBron not being asked to carry a team during the regular season. They added Marc Gasol, like you mentioned. They added Montrezl Harrell. Really lets LeBron just sort of settle in and look at his numbers. He's sitting here with 23.9 points, 8.9 rebounds, 7.4 assists. He's having an MVP caliber year so far. I mean, in many ways, this team lets him kind of manage time, lets him play some of the easiest regular season basketball of his career. All right, the other teams in the West that are interesting. You tell me, who's more interesting to you right now, the Phoenix Suns or the LA Clippers?
Honestly, not the Clippers. You've seen Paul George. He's not been good. Suns, they look really good. Chris Paul looks like he's doing what he usually does, helps the team out. Did that with the Thunder last year. It was like a really high chance they weren't making the playoffs, and they still did. But also the Nuggets, I like them. I feel like they might do something. I'm just not sure.
Chris Paul's doing for the Suns what he did for the Thunder a year ago. He came in last year with the Thunder, and he kind of took Shai Gilgeous-Alexander under his wing and helped him along. And now he's gone to Phoenix, and Devin Booker's further along in his career than SGA, but Booker's getting 21.5. He's getting 4.6 assists. Chris Paul's getting almost 9 assists per game.
How many points is he averaging?
Chris Paul, about 13. He doesn't have to score on that team.
No.
You know, that's one of the things about them. He doesn't. They go to other people when they're looking for points. They're not looking for they're going to DeAndre Ayton. They're going obviously to Devin Booker. I mean, heck, they got Jay Crowder on that team. Dario Saric is on that team, getting 11.3 a game. I mean, that's a pretty deep team. DeAndre Ayton is a guy that they're counting on to be a superstar, and right now he's almost playing at that number. He's 13.4 points, 11.4 rebounds. So Phoenix, I think Phoenix is for real. I think Phoenix is a playoff team. So one of the reasons that Phoenix did that deal is Phoenix wants to be able to build around Devin Booker. They want to be able to build a franchise around Devin Booker. Memphis wants to be able to build a franchise around John Morant.
Yeah.
I told you when it happened, I thought one of the big things for the league, not just the Milwaukee Bucks, but the league, was Giannis Antetokounmpo signing the Supermax deal and locking up in Milwaukee. When you heard that news, I know you heard it in school. Were you surprised?
Honestly, I kind of was. I was expecting either. I didn't really understand how it would work with the Heat, so at the time, who was the big team for that?
Well, there was a lot of talk about the Heat. There was a lot of talk about Dallas, him teaming up with Luka Doncic, which would have been like super exciting, but I don't think that's good for the league. I think it's good for the league. I'm biased when I say this. I know you're biased when you say this. I thought it would have been good for the league years ago if Kevin Durant would have stayed in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. It would have brought a big probably a big dynasty rivalry with the Warriors and Thunder, and then the Cavs are of course still there.
Yeah, well, it would have created that next season if Kevin Durant, who came up a game short in 16, if he had circled back, they'd done the Ibaka trade, they bring in Oladipo, and then they sign Al Horford, and they load up and go after the Warriors again. It would have been this colossal story. Instead, it was he goes to Golden State and they dominate the league for a few years. They get an
easy championship.
And they get
two easy championships.
So I thought it was good. I thought it was a good sign, and it also for Milwaukee it takes the pressure off this season, because if Giannis had not signed, even at 5-3, if Giannis Antetokounmpo had not signed that deal and he was playing out his last year, at 5-3, people would go, oh God, if they don't make it, if they don't win, he's going to leave. That pressure gets alleviated now. It goes away. It lets them just play basketball and kind of get going and get a feel for what they need to do. Do they need to do something at the break? It takes the pressure off that team, off that locker room, off that front office. So it's good for them. It's good for the league. It's good for the future of the league. I thought it was just a really nice moment when he stayed there. And it gives Milwaukee fans, when they get to come back to games, they're going to be super excited to know that he's with them for at least another, 3, 4, 5 years. All right, speaking of guys who might not be with their team 3, 4, 5 years, what do you think's going to happen with James Harden?
Well, I do think he's getting traded by the deadline. I already think there's no chance he goes to the Nets. No way that works. And they're not trading either of their two superstars. I mean, I just don't know where he will go, but I feel like some team will just figure something out. I don't know.
Does he go to Miami? The Jimmy Butler thing? Does that happen?
No. I doubt. No way they trade Jimmy Butler now.
Harden's getting 29.4 a game right now. He's still putting up his points, 11 assists. He's distributing the basketball. He's playing well, but they're not off to the best start in the world. And this is where you get into the West. They're 2-4. It's early, 6 games. But you look at the West, tell me who's bad. It's not Phoenix. It's not the Lakers, obviously. Not the Clippers. You mentioned Utah. They're off to a 4-4 start. They're better than that. Pelicans are off to a 4-4 start. They had a disappointing loss to the Thunder the other night. But the only problem with the Pelicans is they play too slow right now, but they're still figuring out how to work Zion Williamson and Steven Adams together. They still have a nice team. They're not going away. Golden State's been solid. Kelly Oubre's been good for them. Steph Curry has played really well. So they're 4-4. Sacramento's 4-4. The Blazers are 3-4, and they're better than that.
What about Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota's they're 2-5. They're in some trouble.
I still think they're going to be one of the worst teams.
You think they're going to be one of the worst teams?
Yeah.
Well, if they're one of the worst teams, Carson, that's going to be a really unhappy place, and Karl Anthony Towns is going to start begging to get out. And that's where teams around the league have decisions to make. You have this immense talent, but you have to start asking, why is it that nobody can play with him? Why can no one win with him? And I don't think that's fair to him, but that's what people will start asking. And he starts to float around because he would have real value on the trade market for a team that was trying to get that added piece. So Denver's 3-4, Spurs 3-4, Thunder 3-4, Memphis is 2-5. Ja Morant had the bad ankle sprain. He's out for a while. It's going to be hard for them to make the playoffs if he misses several weeks. Is Memphis a team that might actually benefit a little bit from it not working out this year and having a lottery pick and the ability to add another piece to that roster? It's a roster that I like.
I mean, as you know, this upcoming draft class should be a little bit better. I mean, this year's was, I wouldn't say it was underwhelming, but it was not like a big deal.
So who are the guys in this draft class that you like?
I know Cunningham. I don't know much about this class, honestly, but
yeah, everyone talks about Cunningham like he's the absolute deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen them play yet this year, but I know that everyone I talk to in NBA circles raves about him. Jaren Jackson Jr. is in Memphis. I mean, he's getting 17.4 a game. I look at their roster and I kind of wonder, are they a player away? And, sometimes it works out where I think they thought maybe they were going to get this was going to be the year they made a run, and it still could. I mean, Ja comes back and who knows, but it might actually work to their benefit that they get another piece. All right, so we talked a little bit about who's hot, who's not. The hot teams right now, Phoenix, the Lakers, the Clippers. In the East, it's Philly, Orlando, the Pacers. I do think you have to talk about Philadelphia as being a real team. They got bounced early in the playoffs last year, and everybody does that deal that we do. We just, it's not going to happen. We write them off. Well, here they are. They're playing really high-level defensive basketball. They're 7-1. If we're talking about who's hot, Carson, they're hot.
Also, Tobias Harris. He's had a big improvement off of last year.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he got Player of the Week.
Yeah, he's
maybe a week or two ago.
He's getting 19.3 and 7.9 per game on that Sixers team. They need scoring. It's a team that, and we all talk about it, they're built around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And Simmons is playing well. Simmons is just not a high-profile shooter. 13.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, 7.6 assists. He's doing what they're asking him to do. They're a team that I kind of wonder at the deadline, do you go get a guard who can shoot?
And that's where I think they might potentially trade Simmons.
So you think they might make Simmons part of a blockbuster?
Potentially, yeah.
Well, that's where you get back into the Harden conversation. Does Harden go to Philadelphia?
I just don't think that would work out. I honestly think that'd be a bit too much.
Why? Because Harden's so ball heavy?
He's so ball dominant. And Simmons, he's the exact opposite. He does not shoot much. He drives, gets rid of the ball quick, usually.
What would be interesting is what Joel Embiid's response to that would be. What does he say if the front office there in Philly, which is Daryl Morey, who was in Houston, says, "Hey, we can add Harden. He wants to play with you."
I just don't know how they'd work out together. I mean, they might not. There's no way to know.
Seth Curry's on that team, and they've got some shooters. It's just it's a good roster. Isaiah Joe, the rookie out of Arkansas, is on that team. I'm looking to see how much he's playing. I don't think he's playing much. He's not playing much at all.
See a two-way?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know whether he's a two-way player or not. Danny Green's on that team.
He's not even that great anymore.
Getting about 8 a game. No, and they're not asking him to be great. No. They're asking him to just come in and give them some
a bit of shooting.
Give them some veteran shooting, some veteran presence. He can play some defense. I mean, again, they've built the team around defensive guys, and I mean they added Terrence Ferguson to play defense.
How's he done?
Let's see how Ferguson's done. I haven't watched Philly much. They're a team that I need to watch. He's not even registering.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not even registering for them. Not playing at all. Yeah, he's not doing anything. All right, so we mentioned Gordon Hayward. Charlotte goes out and gets him. You were talking about this. You got in the car today. We were talking about the Hornets. Heyward goes for 44 last night on a team where he's being asked to be a leader.
Be the veteran on that team.
To be the scorer. And for the first time really since those first 5 minutes of his career as a Celtic, I think he's fully healthy finally. I don't know if you watched some of the highlights from that game. He's exploding to the rim in a way that he never did in Boston.
I saw one play. He had a drive into a two-hand dunk.
He's shooting well. I'm pulling up Hayward's stats. I mean, obviously they're going to be a little skewed by the fact that.
And I think he had like 26 by halftime. He was shooting like 60%, I think.
Yeah. So I'm looking. I'm pulling him up. Gordon Hayward right there. So he's at 21.9 a game, 5.8 rebounds, 4.4 assists. He's 30 years old. I was surprised when they gave him the money they gave him. I didn't think it made a lot of sense for Charlotte.
Yeah, was he the Supermax? Or was he just
No,
max?
but they just gave him a big deal. And they're asking him, to play with Terry Rozier and to play with LaMelo Ball. And I get it. I told you this in the car. To me, what Charlotte's doing is running the risk of assuring mediocrity, which in this league is not what you want to be. It's the worst thing you can be. You're never going to get up high in the lottery. You're never going to compete for a title. If I'm a Hornets fan, that's what scares me a little bit. I mean, he's fun to watch. He's a good guy, all that stuff. I don't know that spending the kind of money that they spent on Gordon Hayward right now makes a ton of sense. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree. I mean, he's one of those guys. He's kind of always been injury prone, especially since that injury. But I just don't think he's the type of guy you would go to be your main guy, main scorer. When you think of that, I think you would think of a guy who is just naturally that scorer. I'm not sure who that would be again, but
well, he's a great player, and I think he's a really good number 2 or 3 player on a contending team.
But no way he's the first option on any
But he
team.
makes them too good, which leads me into a team that I know you follow a lot. Still, Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's early, and they're shooting a lot more threes this year. They're playing a lot slower this year. But the Thunder haven't been awful, and the plan in Oklahoma City was for
to be awful. Yeah,
was for the Thunder to be awful, and they're not. They're 3-4, bucket by Donovan Mitchell away from being 4-3. Mitchell made a just huge shot to beat the Thunder at the last couple seconds a couple weeks ago over Lou Dort. What I wonder with Oklahoma City when I look at them, and I've watched them a couple of times, I wonder if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is emerging as a superstar, a potential star, as you've always said. I'm pulling up his numbers right now. He's getting 19 a game. They've got George Hill, who came over. He's getting 12.8 per game. I would think Sam Presti's wanting to move him at the deadline.
Baisley's putting up about I checked it this morning. It was maybe 13, 14 in there probably.
Yeah. Lou Dort's becoming a really good two-way player. He's getting 13.4 points a game, and he's a defensive whiz. And then I'm looking for Baisley so I can pull up his numbers because he played he was exceptional the other night. He's getting 13 a night. And then you mix in Al Horford, who's not playing. He's not in shape yet. Kind of playing his way into shape. I think the Thunder are hoping he's a reclamation project. They're getting a lot out of Mike Muscala, 11 points a game. I would think he gets moved. It's in that, and I still think they'll fall off the cliff, and the losses are coming, and they're going to be in the lottery. But you do wonder if they look at it and say these young guys might be more further along right now than we thought they'd be, and this team might be a little too good where Sam Presti has to be aggressive. But the one thing he'll always do is he's not going to make a trade just to make a trade. He's only going to make a trade for value. And someone's got to finish in the West. Someone's got to finish at the bottom. And when you look at the West, everyone's competing. Everyone's trying. They were the one team that I think everybody thought wouldn't try.
And as of now, it kind of looks like they are.
Well, guys are going to play. Yeah, they're going to play to win. Georgia Rebel says Heyward and George were both given ridiculous contracts. You and I talked about it a little bit. I couldn't believe the Paul George
When I
contract.
saw that, I was you should have seen social media. You probably honestly have. People just clown with the Clippers about it. He's just not that player anymore. First game of the season, I know he put up 33, but even then, he had a really stupid turnover. He was he was in the corner or on the wing, and as he got it, there was nobody to his right, and he just threw a pass to his right, thinking there was somebody there, and it was the ref.
But
that was the only good game he's had this season. I mean, the rest of his games have been like 13, 15 in there. But
he's getting 24.5 a game right now, six rebounds, 4 assists. What you're building your narrative around is the same thing that I think a lot of people say, and I think it's fair, is that his playoff performances in Indiana late in his career, in Oklahoma City, he was great. That one year in the regular season looked like a MVP candidate, and then was awful in the playoffs. And then last year, frankly, for the Clippers, he kind of disappeared.
Yeah, he was not good.
People blamed it on the bubble and stuff, but everyone was in the bubble.
Yeah.
Ben Leslie says, "Happy birthday to you, Carson." It's not your birthday, but they always tell Chase happy birthday every day. So
thank you, I guess.
All right, so let's see. There's a couple of games tonight on the schedule. See which ones of these do something for you. It's the Thursday night games, 76ers and Nets. It's a shame that Durant's not playing in that one. That would be a lot of fun to watch. 76ers and Nets at 6:30. Dallas and Denver at 9. Another good game. Two teams that I think are going to get a lot better over the next few weeks. I think when Porzingis comes back for Dallas, that's when they get fun to watch. We'll find out whether they're for real or not. They're just kind of treading water right now, and everyone's focused on Luka. I guess that's it. So I want to thank the people at Lammons for sponsoring the show. Kind of first shows are always kind of awkward. You kind of trying to get a feel for how you're going to do it. But we'll come back next week. Thursday probably works for you. Your soccer season ends Monday? Hopefully it's not over. They were supposed to play tonight and got
rained out, even though we play on turf.
Pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I question it, but.
So you had soccer on Monday, then we'll turn the page. We'll start watching a little bit more basketball. We'll come back with another edition of Chasing the Ring, presented by Lammons Fine Jewelry next week. So we'll have another week of NBA under our belt. Might even start looking. Give Carson a homework assignment. Here's your homework assignment for Chasing the Ring. Come back next week. Let's talk about because everybody talks about this lottery being a deep lottery coming up. Give me 10 guys. So you got Cunningham and
9 others.
Boston at Kentucky. Give me 10 guys that people need to be watching in the amateur ranks, getting ready for the lottery. There's your homework for Chasing the Ring. So for Carson, I'm Neal. That does it for this edition of Chasing the Ring, presented by Lammons Fine Jewelry. Don't forget lammonsfinejewelry.com. If you are in or around Oxford, or you're coming to town, be a great place to get that Valentine's Day shopping done. They've got a great collection of fashion jewelry, watches, and so much more. That's Lammons Fine Jewelry. Until next time, for Carson, I'm Neal. Take care.